Hi guys, welcome back TV Spoilers. The shock that Phyllis and Billy created was not just a business victory, but a dagger plunged straight into the principles Victor considered the backbone of his empire. When control of Newman Enterprises and Chancellor Industries fell into the hands of two men he had once viewed both wariness and contempt, the loss was not measured in shares, signatures, or board meetings. It was measured in the feeling of public humiliation, in the bitter realization that there were people who dared to cross a line Victor thought no one was brave enough to cross. Meanwhile, in the darker corner of the same storm, Cain lay unconscious as living proof of betrayal. His body lay there, motionless and cold, but what drove Victor mad wasn't just the sight itself, but the hidden meaning. Phyllis hadn't just defeated them, she played a dirty game, turning people into tools, trust into a joke, a single misstep into a deliberate downfall. Victor looked at Cain as if he were a relic of this war, and in that gaze was anger, calculation, and a chilling realization that if Phyllis and Billy had come this far, they wouldn't just stop because they claimed two big names on the signboard. When a man like Victor loses control, the most terrifying thing isn't that he weakens, but that he begins to find another way to regain power, and that way is often more ruthless than anyone can imagine. On the other side, Phyllis and Billy savored their moment in a self-satisfied intoxication that only those who have just crossed a line of morality can taste. They celebrated their victory with glee, as if the world had finally acknowledged their audacity, as if the takeover of Newman Enterprises and Chancellor Industries was a rebalancing of justice, a necessary overthrow of long-standing dominance. But this glee concealed a paper-thin unease, for they knew, deep down, that what they had done was more than just winning a deal or securing a business. They had struck at Victor Newman's pride, and they had used Cain's as a stepping stone. The more they celebrated, the more they had to convince themselves that this was right, that it was worthwhile, that every sacrifice was justified. And in this attempt at self-justification, they inadvertently revealed the most dangerous thing: the subjective feeling that everything was already decided, that Victor was just an old man pushed to the sidelines, that Cain was a merely minor piece of the game. Subjectivity is always the first knock signaling on impending tragedy, for it makes people forget a simple rule. Those cornered will either collapse or become even more terrifying than before they were cornered. Victor's stunned reaction to Cain's unconscious state was like the calm before the storm. He didn't understand much explanation to understand what had happened, for Victor had lived his whole life surrounded by schemes of all kinds, seen all kinds of betrayals wrapped in smiles and promises. But this time, what enraged him to the point of almost losing control wasn't just the trickery, the contempt. Phyllis had dared to make Cain a victim in a game where the ultimate goal was control of Newman Enterprises, and Billy had accepted the collision to seize Chancellor as if it were just a necessary step. Victor felt as if someone had brazenly entered his house, taken everything, and then placed the keys back on the table with a defiant smile. The shock lasted only a moment, then transformed into a clearly defined rage, a rage not a meaningless outburst, but the one that crystallized into a determination to punish. For Victor, defeat was not the end. Defeat was merely the beginning of a counterattack he would prepare with everything he had, even using the wounds of others to forge his blade. Sienna was accustomed to the storms of Genoa City, but this time it felt different. It was no longer the high society turmoil, the judgmental glances, or the rumors that drifted like smoke in the hallways. This time, the storm took the form of legal documents, of cold timelines, of clauses that could crush a life with just a few lines of text. Sienna stood before the mirror and saw a woman stretched to her limit. Her eyes no longer felt calm enough to conceal her fear. She tried to maintain a calm demeanor, but the truth was, each breath felt heavy, as if someone had placed a stone on her chest. Genoa City, once stage brimming with opportunity, now resembled a slowly closing trap. She understood that the feeling of being hunted didn't always come from an enemy wielding a knife. Sometimes it came from the system itself, from the processes called justice that could become a slow-moving saw blade if someone chose to wield them as a weapon. Sienna finally accepted what she had been trying to avoid from the start. She would have to stay, at least long enough to see what the secret could accomplish. The decision didn't come as a victory, but as a silent vow. She was no longer the woman preparing to flee in fear. She was the woman standing on the edge of a precipice, looking down into the darkness and choosing to turn and face it. Noah didn't need to say more. His presence, the truth he carried, was enough to change course. But just as Sienna thought she had a clear path, a chill ran down her spine, as if someone had opened an invisible door in the room. She realized the secret Noah had discovered not only could save her, it could also trigger a reaction from Matt Clark. And Matt, if cornered, wouldn't just defend himself with reason. He would defend himself with power, with manipulation, with blows that would leave his opponent no time to recover. On our TV Spoilers channel, I always seek content inspiration for each video by compiling short video clips to analyze and offer my personal opinions. This channel specializes in analyzing, theorizing, and discussing plot points in the Young and the Restless series from the perspective of a longtime fan. Through this, viewers can gain deeper, more objectives, and more interesting perspectives. Subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest news about the Young and the Restless series.